The original Pixel Fold will likely go down as one of my all-time favorite devices. I can't imagine that changing anytime soon. I absolutely adored this form factor. You have a mini phone that opens up into a proper tablet. Like, what more do you want out of a device? I love the way that it looks, in particular with this D-brand leather skin, the patina nicely set and accenting with that sort of very reflective metallic look. Man, just what an awesome looking phone. I love this phone. But even someone who loves this phone and honestly had a fairly complicated relationship with this phone due to some hardware failures, there were things about it that I would admit weren't necessarily all that great. I mean, the hinge, especially now with 2025 context, really does not feel that great. Most hinges now kind of feel more energetic. This kind of is just mushy all the way through. And then, of course, you guys probably remember the giant controversy about it not folding open completely flat that many people were very upset about for some reason. Because this thing ran a Tensor G2, it did tend to get a little bit warm at times. It wasn't the most efficient device in the world. All that being said, I still loved that device, but when the sequel came out, the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, even I had to admit that Google had done something very impressive. The year-over-year improvement from the original Pixel Fold to the rather strangely named Pixel 9 Pro Fold was pretty dramatic. They've improved a lot. While yes, they did obviously abandon the form factor that so many of us loved and still love, the hinge is dramatically better. It does feel much more energetic. It sort of snaps open there at the end, and it does have a tendency to open up flat, which is a big deal for a lot of people. It's lighter. I think it's something like 30 grams lighter. It's still a fairly heavy phone compared to some other foldables, but they did trim some of that weight off without really changing the camera hardware in a positive way at all. They did also manage to improve the camera quality. It's using the Tensor G4, which runs cooler, it's more efficient, it's faster. Everything about the software on the Pixel 9 Pro Fold does seem to just run a little bit better. Not that I ever had like major problems with the original Pixel Fold. I still think it runs quite well even today. I made a video about that not that long ago, talking about how with the Material 3 expressive redesign, this device is actually a really compelling buy because you can get it for like $500 or $400 now, which is really cool. But guys, there's a reason that virtually every review said, wow, the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, that might be the biggest year-over-year improvement we have ever seen in the smartphone world. But guys, today, we're going to talk about another year-over-year improvement that I think might actually even be more impressive. On one side, we have another device that I really quite liked, maybe not to the same degree as the original Pixel Fold. This is the Galaxy Z Fold 6, and on the left, we have a device that I have liked more than I really ever imagined that I was going to, the Galaxy Z Fold 7. This jump from Fold 6 to Fold 7 is dramatic. And you can start in the most obvious place, just the hardware itself. That is a very dramatic improvement in terms of thickness and weight. The Z Fold 7 is essentially just a slab phone at this point, a standard normal phone when it is closed. The Fold 6 still does feel a bit brick-like in your pocket. You can also probably notice those camera bumps sticking out pretty far, really far on the Galaxy Z Fold 7, and that is because they have upgraded the camera, the primary camera, quite a bit. We are now using the same 200 megapixel sensor that we have in the S25 Ultra, which I'm actually filming this video with right now, and there's a reason, because I love the way video looks from that sensor on the S25 Ultra, and guess what, guys? It's pretty much identical on the Z Fold 7, which means I can film B-roll for this channel on the phone in my pocket and not upload it to my computer and think, oh, that does not look as good as I was hoping it was going to. It looks good. That's awesome. And of course, still shots look very good as well. They are nice and detailed. I think that they've actually improved their color processing as well to make it more realistic, more normal. It doesn't have that same Samsung sort of exaggerated look that they had for many years. Motion blur seems to really be an issue of the past as well. That main sensor is great. Now, while the ultra wide is also slightly improved with larger pixels, and that does help things out, you could definitely complain that the telephoto has not changed year over year, and it is definitely beginning to show its age. But let's be fair here, guys. If so many people are going to call this such a huge year over year leap, we have to acknowledge that the cameras are all exactly the same, except for the primary camera, which actually got smaller. Google leaned heavily on computational photography to improve the camera performance. And I think that Samsung has by and large done that. Plus, they've upgraded 2 out of the 3 sensors on the back of this device. Now, a lot was made about the batteries in these things. They're both 4,400 milliamp hours. Why did they not increase the battery size? Well, might I remind you that on this phone, we had like a 4,800 milliamp hour battery, and they dropped it to 4,600 milliamp hours with the 9 Pro Fold. People seem to have just forgotten that that happened. And the reason is because the software was more efficient, the processor was more efficient, and it didn't actually lead to worse battery life. In fact, it was probably a little bit better. And guess what, guys? It's kind of the same situation here. This is the Snapdragon 8 Elite, and it is a bit more efficient. And even with the larger screens, which I haven't even turned these things on to let you see this, which is, I think, another fairly dramatic change year over year, the battery life has been quite solid for me. So solid, in fact, I have recently started limiting this thing to 85% to preserve that battery for a long time, and it's not a problem. As you can see, this cover display did get a little bit wider, so it is really now in the same place as like a standard phone. It's the exact same width basically as the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. I know a lot of people still seem to think that this device is more narrow than a standard phone, but it's the exact same width across as the 9 Pro Fold, and no one had anything to say about it being too narrow, so I think maybe a bit of an optical illusion going on there with the shape of this device. And then, of course, when you open it up and you look at that inner screen, you can see that there is, once again, a pretty big change. This is far wider than the Galaxy Z Fold 6, and that allows you to just, for me, do a little bit more with it. Let's open up a weather app, because this is like one of my favorite uses for a big screen like this, is actually like drilling down into the weather. You can just see a little bit more over here. And then, of course, when you want to go into some split screen multitasking, because the screen is wider, it really makes a big difference when you are split screening. You can just see a bit more of both of these split applications. Now, like I said, I really enjoyed the Galaxy Z Fold 6, but I am loving the Z Fold 7. And one big thing that has been kind of unexpected for me is how much I'm using this inner screen. If you look at my statistics here, we'll just pick a random day and they're all basically like this. You can see that I'm using it unfolded much more than I am using it folded. You would think that because that cover display is so much more like a normal phone now, that I would just be using that cover display more, and I kind of thought that might be the case. Because with this phone, I really still did not love using this cover display. It was definitely an improvement over prior Z Folds, but it still is just a little bit narrow. So I would end up opening it up to use the inner screen a little bit more often, and I thought that might invert here, but it's actually gone the other direction. This inner screen is so enjoyable for me to use, and the device is so nice and light that it's so easy to use it like this, with even with one hand, and then using an app like Quick Cursor to reach the rest of the screen. I end up just using this inner screen all the time. Now, I did mention that Google actually did downgrade a couple of things from Fold to 9 Pro Fold, right? They shrunk the primary camera sensor, they actually shrunk the battery as well. So to be fair, we did lose the S Pen with this device, going from 6 to 7, and that is going to be a deal breaker for some of you. I never use the S Pen, so I literally forget to mention that it's not there sometimes. They also did get rid of the under-display camera, but as you can see here, I manually disabled that anyways. I hate the under-display camera. I have some visual sensitivities though, and it kind of has this like screen door effect that like shimmers. Can't stand it. I fill it with black with good luck. So for me, that is not a loss at all. Your mileage may vary. For me, these devices represent quite clearly a year-over-year leap where I did not really lose anything and I gained a ton. They did not change the form factor from one that I loved to one that I don't love. They actually improved the form factor. The battery life is better, the camera's better, it's thinner, it's lighter, the inner display is wider, which I absolutely love. We have gone from a device that I would tell you is a very safe bet for most people, a rock solid device that doesn't really get anything heavily wrong, to a device that I can honestly say to you guys, I really, really like. I like it so much that a lot of you have asked, hey, have you considered going back to the Oppo Find N5? Have you considered going back to the Pixel 9 Pro Fold that you have said was your favorite overall folding phone? When I took a look at the Pixel Fold 1 about a month and a half ago, and I talked about how refreshing and how much I really loved that experience, have I considered going back to that? The answer has been no. I have had no desire to take my SIM out of this phone and put it into any other phone. And guys, I wish I could actually mention a little secret that I'm keeping, but there is another phone in the house I'm not allowed to talk about for a little while longer. And I gotta admit, I haven't even bothered putting my SIM in it yet because I have been enjoying this phone so much. I told you guys months ago when we started seeing the leaks about what this device would be, that it could be the biggest year-over-year jump in the Z Fold series since we got the Z Fold 2. And now that I've had it for a couple of weeks, we're getting closer and closer to that 1 month mark. I feel quite confident in telling you that that was an accurate prediction. It is a very big difference, even 6 to 7. Now look, let me just give you the quick disclaimer as I close this video. I'm not telling Z Fold 6 owners to go buy the Z Fold 7, just like if you were a Pixel Fold user, buying the 9 Pro Fold probably didn't make a lot of sense. Okay, so it's not what I'm saying. But in terms of year-over-year jumps, it is a pretty darn impressive one, and it's a device that I am really enjoying. Guys, give me your thoughts in those comments down below. Subscribe for more content like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.